Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of this pick, and this is day 2 of the Thompson International Speedway annual November swap meet. So I had gone there on the opening day, which was a Friday, and picked a handful of items that you saw in the last episode, and then I went back early the next morning, and this is an item I actually saw that Friday night and didn't think too much about it. And the guy was, firm at $50 on this thing. And what this is this is a tenoning jig. This is a genuine Delta tenoning jig. This goes on a Delta table saw, and it's basically it's a specially made jig for holding a board vertical, so that you can run it through the saw to make a shoulder cut and to make a tenon on the end of a board. So if you're not into woodworking, it's going to be kind of hard for me to explain what a tenon is, and I don't have one I can show you, but you can imagine taking a board like this, and what you want to do is you actually hold it in here like this, and the table saw is going to make a cut right through here, okay, and then through here. So what's going to end up happening is, what you end up doing is you end up making a tall cut here and a cut here, and then you reposition it and you do a simple cross cut here and take this whole area out on both sides, and what you end up with is a skinny part, and that skinny part is called a tenon. And then on the corresponding wood part that you want the tenon to go into, you make a pocket, and then that tenon gets inserted and glued into the pocket, and it makes for really a really strong joint, and it's used in furniture making. So you can imagine the crosscut's pretty easy, but holding a piece vertical and running it through a saw blade that's pretty tall, because you have it elevation up high on it, can be a pretty dicey proposition. But if it's firmly clamped and held with a very secure jig like this, it makes it a breeze. So that's why these things are great. The genuine Delta ones like this can be pretty pricey. I don't remember exactly how much these cost new, but it's not something that comes with the saw, obviously. It's an accessory jig you buy after the fact if you're going to be doing a lot of that. At some point I might want to get back into woodworking, or who the hell knows, I might even just end up willing this to one of my kids if he gets into it as a hobby, woodworking. But the gist of it is I wanted one. I have one now, but it's a really simplistic, basic one. I think it's a Craftsman. It's nowhere near as sturdy and well made as this thing. So I was, on the fence. I knew at $50 it was actually a pretty good deal. But what happened was I went back the next day, and around midday I went by this guy's booth again, because it was a dad and the son, and they had tables side by side. So I ended up going back there and buying one of the items that's going to come up shortly. And what ended up happening was I got to talking to him about this, and he had come down to 45 on this, dropped another $5, right? So, oh no, 40 bucks. That's what it was. He had said he'd take 40 for it now. Absolute bottom. But the other item I had seen the previous night in his boxes of junk was this thing, okay? It's a foot switch. It's an industrial quality foot switch that could be used with any number of devices. It's pretty simplistic. All you got is you've got a 3-prong plug here that plugs into the outlet, and then directly on the back of it you've got a 3-prong outlet. So you plug in your 3-prong device into this, and then you plug this into the wall, and now the switch can be used to turn the device on and off. So could be used for any number of different things. I was thinking maybe even like a rotary table. This is a Line Master brand, catalog number 522-B14. These aren't cheap. And in fact, the foot switch can be bought separately, and the guard is actually like another accessory, or makes it a little bit more expensive than one without the guard. So anyways, he wanted $10 for this, and I almost bought it, and I kept thinking to myself, well, I can't think of anything I need it for right now. Do I want to bother? But I remembered it, so what I was able to do was, when he said 40 on that, I said, well, I tell you what, I reached into the box and pulled this out. I said, I'll give you 45 for the two. And he said, sure. So I figure I'm into this thing, this foot switch, for $5, which is a great deal. If I end up finding a use for it, it'll really make sense. And then 40 for the Tenoning Jig, which that's one I'm probably going to die with. So then next, you guessed it, another CB. My weakness for vintage CB continues to cause problems in my life. So notice you can just see somebody wrote on here with a ballpoint pen very unceremoniously $30. So I originally saw this Friday night too, and the guy wanted $30 for it, you know? And it was funny because, like, well, it was his full asking price, but it was Friday night. I'm sure he was hoping that they were going to show up in droves on Saturday looking for this kind of junk. So I ended up offering him 20 for it. He wouldn't take 20. I asked him, I said, you know, does it even work? Knowing full well that I can't take his word for it anyways. So he had claimed that he took this out of his truck and that it was working, but he had stopped using it because of the problem with the microphone. Pointed out this break in the microphone right here and said that that's why he had stopped using it. So I don't know. So he wouldn't take the 20. He was holding firm at 30, and I knew it was because he wanted to wait and see what was going to happen the next day. Next morning, Saturday morning, I go there. I go down the row there. I offer him the 20 again. He still doesn't want to take it. Okay. Later in the morning, maybe closer to midday, I go back. And I see his dad is watching his table, and his dad had the Tenoning Jig that I just showed you and the foot switch. I say to Dad, I said, hey, I see he's still got that radio, but he didn't want to take my offer. He said, what was your offer? I said, $20. He said, I'll take it. I said, all right. I said, not going to jam you up, is it, with your partner? At that point, I didn't know they were father-son. He says, I'm his dad, so it's all right. So I got this for $20. I want to also mention, when I saw this thing Saturday morning, it was wet. They had just left this stuff out there all night. I think we had gotten either a light rain or there was a pretty heavy dew from the morning frost, burning off or whatever. But all right, so what this is a Galaxy DX979. This is the first Galaxy radio I've ever purchased. And from what I read online, it's actually a decent radio. Apparently the Galaxies are prone to drifting off frequency on sideband, I think is what I read. The 959, so this is weird. The DX959 is a little bit larger radio and incorporates a frequency counter, which is very handy to have if you add extras to this radio, which apparently is very easy to do on these models. So, kind of funny, but the lower model number gets you the bigger radio with the frequency counter. I don't know why. So I don't even know if this thing works at all. I guess, I don't know. I don't even think I want to power it up right now because, well, the microphone's trash. So, $20, took a chance on it. We'll see. This next group of items is from a machinist, a vendor who had some machinist stuff there, who I had seen Friday night. I had seen this Friday night, didn't pay much attention to it, and then these actually came out Saturday morning. So went by, I looked at this stuff, didn't think too much about it initially, and then I ended up coming back later and offered him $10 for this, and he took it. Now what this is a grinding wheel dressing tool. So the idea behind this thing is you put a, there's actually one in there if I rotate this. This is to loosen the actual, so this one knob ends up allowing this to rotate and this to rotate. So there you go. You see your typical diamond bit. That one is really toast. Looks like the grinding wheel was hitting everything but the nub on there, what's left of it. So I got to get that one out of there. And apparently it can support two sizes. It's a larger hole here, I think think that's why it's made the way it's made. But what's kind of cool about this is that you can use this, and you've got some versatility here, so you can use this to dress the side of a wheel pretty easily. You know, make of it what you will. Anywho, the only ones of these I was able to find online this style, almost all of them that were identified by a maker were identified by that RAL Mics company, which again, I've got a few different things from the RAL Mics company that apparently they were a tool distributor and they had things made specially for them, because I've got like a height gauge that is very unique and apparently belonged to, you know, it was an exclusive in their catalog or something along those lines. I think this also falls into that category. So if anybody's ever seen another one this style made by a different company, I'd love to hear about it, because it probably would be who made this one. So anyways, kind of a neat thing. You know, I think these trade for $40 or $50 on eBay used when they come up. So I think $10 was a good deal for this. It's got a broken, but I've got plenty of these replacement ones here. I can replace that pretty easy enough. Just curious how tight this is in there. No, not too bad. It's coming out. There we go. All right, so you can throw that in the trash. I'll replace this, and Bob's your uncle. Then he had these items here. He had a box of collets. I asked him about the collets. I think he said $5 each on the collets or something along that effect, but he said more if I take more of them. But I went through the whole box, and I could only find 2 Hardinge collets. Well used, but they look like they're okay. These are R8 Hardinge collets. And he had this interesting fly cutter, which he told me all about. He says, you know, he says he's used this thing, and he says it works great. The problem he ran into is, he said the supplier that I guess he got this from, that was supplying him with these round carbide. So we get this unusual round little carbide on there. So has anybody ever seen a carbide insert like that, with a geometry like that? It's kind of different. So the clearance is really small on this thing. So this is made for taking you know, a finished cut by the looks of it. So the only markings I could find on the whole thing is there's a number 402 on the top here. So I have no idea who made this. It's kind of unique. It's got a little bit of life left in that one carbide. But, you know, once that's gone, if I can't find anything like that, it's going to be pretty much a paperweight. So but I took a chance on it. I offered him 10 for the 3 pieces, and he was firm at $12. So I said, well, $2 isn't going to kill anybody. $12. I figure I paid 5 a piece for these used Hardinge collets, which they are Hardinge, so that's not too bad. And I'm going to keep those for myself. And so I'm into this fly cutter for only $2. Well, it's interesting. I did a little research on this cutter, and the only cutter that I can find online that looks like this is a company called Metal Masters. Makes a proprietary cutter that looks like this. But the funny thing is, they have two versions of this cutter. The smaller of the 2 versions has a single cutter like this, and then the larger one has 3 cutters. So they use the same insert, but there's 3 of them. The smaller one that uses 1 insert, it says maximum effective diameter is 2 inches, which is kind of weird, because this cutter, the body is 3.5 inches. But I realize that the cutter is actually making contact back here somewhere. So, but even then, what did I say the body was? 3.5. I mean, 2 inches is kind of lost in here. But the reason why I think it might be the right one, even though the dimensions don't seem to make sense to me, is because there's a picture of the cutter, the actual insert, and it's identical to this, right down to the little. There's almost like a little not hexagonal. There's little indentations in there, right? So apparently, according to the website, this Rotary Technologies company that makes these Metal Master cutters, that they developed this insert themselves, and they're calling it a frustum insert, Frustum insert, and they're saying it's, the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? Here's the big issue. I'm on the Rotary Tech website, and it's telling me, you see there's a picture of the cutter right there. So they're saying this is an MM200, but they both use the same inserts. And they only make, see there's a picture of the insert. You can see it looks very similar to what I'm dealing with here. But they're essentially saying that they only make 4 inserts for this. A 25P, which is a grade C2 carbide with no coating. A 25PC, which is C2 carbide with a coating of TIN-TIZ AL203. 55P, no coating, what C5 carbide. 55PC, C5 carbide with that tin tick coating, okay? Well, that's tin tick tin. Ooh, well, how do you like that? So here's the big problem. I can only find one seller on eBay who has these inserts, and he's charging $60 a piece. He's got the 25P, the 55P, and the 55 CP, which is the coated one, but they're all the same price, $59.97, $59.94, you know. Call it $60 per insert. You know, a home shop guy like me is not going to pay $60 per insert for these things to use this cutter. I did find one other possibility, which is this guy's got a 10-pack of the 55 PC coated ones, and he's asking $200 or best offer. So, you know, maybe he'd take a lowball offer, I don't know. So, I mean, those C5 inserts in steel would be good for roughing, but I mean, this isn't really a roughing cutter. This is more of a finishing cutter. Because of the clearance, you're taking pretty light cuts, right? I don't know. I was calling this a fly cutter, and apparently it's more correctly a milling cutter. Don't know what I should do. Next dealer I hit had just a pile of all kinds of household junk and everything, but then he had some radio stuff. So he had a bunch of mobile radios there, and you know, I said, what are you getting for the radios? He said $10 each. So I looked through the stack, and this is the only one I bought because it's a Cobra 146 GTL. It was the only sideband radio of the bunch. There was one bass radio there, but it was an old realistic Navajo 23 channel, so I passed on that one. I could probably had that for $10, but so I have no idea if this works at all. Then he had a bunch of microphones there. No microphones were hooked up to any of the radios for the most part, so I ended up looking for the microphone for this, and then I realized that there were several microphones here that didn't belong to any of the radios he had, so I said, well, I'd be willing to buy just some of these orphan microphones. So I ended up getting this bag of microphones for either 15 or 20 bucks. And the reason why I wanted these microphones was, there's a Cobra. So I found 2 Cobras, so I knew one of them probably went with this radio, but I wasn't sure which one. So I got those 2 Cobras. I got this ICOM. So this is probably for a maybe a 2-meter radio or something. So I got to figure out what this belongs to. This is an HM127B, but this could be you know, a good eBay item. But the best part of all was this. It's a Galaxy microphone. So it might fit that $959 or $979 that I bought, which would be great. Well, it is for a VHF radio, as I suspected. I can't find any of these currently for sale on eBay, and the only one that I can find that has sold is this one here, which brought $166, and it had 12 bids, and that's for a used one. Now, it's much cleaner than mine. I have no way to test this, so I'm going to have to sell mine as is. But it looks like I was right in including this in the pile. Oh, I almost forgot about this item. There was a guy there at the Speedway who had all brand new DeWalt tools. Don't know if he's a dealer or how he gets a hold of them, but it was all brand new stuff. and I've become a fan lately of this 20 volt DeWalt stuff. I had an old Ryobi set up, the drill, sawzall, trim saw, and some other stuff, and it used the, oh, I forget what size batteries it used. I think it was an 18 volt NiCad battery system. They've since now, it's called the Ryobi 1 system. They now have a lithium ion battery that replaces those. So the batteries were junk, so I ended up actually picking up a deal on a charger and new batteries for that setup. And actually I just picked up the used good batteries and charger just so I can now sell that setup, because I'm switching over to all this DeWalt 20 volt stuff. And interestingly enough, the reason why I haven't sold it yet or tried to sell it yet is because I didn't want to give up my right angle drill. It's the only tool that I don't have a cordless version of to replace yet. So when I saw these there, I'd been watching these on eBay to see what the Bear tool was going for. I saw this guy was asking 90 bucks. He only had one of these. He had multiples of all the other stuff, but he only had one of these. So I was kind of hesitant to ask him. You know, I didn't think he actually was going to take a discount, but I was on my way out, leaving for the day, and I said, hey, I said, are you firm on these prices? And he says, you know, I think it might have been a slow day for him too. And he says, well, it depends really on the item. I have more flexibility on some items. And I said, well, I'm interested in this. I'll give you 80 bucks for it. He said, sure. So I paid 80 bucks cash for it, no tax. From what I've been watching on eBay, that's actually a pretty good price for this. So, you know, hopefully there's a good tool in here. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Then one of the last picks of the day, I found a dealer who had some other electronics and household junk, and there was a table full of junk, and it was just laying there. This Radio Shack SWR field strength meter. The field strength meter is supposed to have an aerial that's attached that sticks up out of here that's missing, so not really any good for that, but it's still a good SWR meter. And it's a Radio Shack one, and it was $1, and it came with this, actually we got a little like 2-foot coaxial jumper cable that might come in handy for something, and there's even a double female PL259 connector in there. So he took $1 for that, and then he had a box of other junk there, and I spotted this Western Digital external drive, and weeded through the box of a ton of cables and everything, and I found what appears to be the correct cable and what appears to be the correct power supply, based on the fact that it was in the box with this thing and it had the proper polarity and voltage. So this will be plugging this in for the first time since coming back here. It's lighting up. Drive's spinning up. So I don't know. I'm going to have to see if there's anything on here. Kind of curious. It's I think it's a 250 gigabyte drive, so it's kind of small by today's standards. What's nice about something like this, though, is if you open it up, it's usually just a notebook hard drive that they stick in these things. And I could probably find another drive online and just use this enclosure if I wanted to, you know, put like a 1 terabyte or something in there. So, all right, I don't know, it just all stopped. So I don't know if it just goes to sleep on its own or what. So I'm going to try this again with a laptop hooked up. So I just happen to have my HP Turd. Oh, I'm sorry, it's the HP Stream. They should have called it the Turd. This is a horrible little computer, in my opinion. The problem with this computer is it has on the motherboard, soldered onto the motherboard, it has the memory, the solid state drive or whatever, and it's not big enough for the operating system. So it's got Windows on it. So what they should have done is they should have loaded Chrome on this thing. a much less invasive operating system. This is the idea behind this thing was supposed to be that it was a cloud-based deal, that you were gonna, you know, use the HP cloud and blah. Yeah, right. All right. So as soon as I plugged in the USB cable, the drive came back on. So let's see if we can find it. Yeah. So this is a that's drive C. That's the resident drive on this turd. And I have 644 megabytes free. It's a 21.5 gigabyte. Oh, there it is. All right. You probably had to load the drivers. Oh, look at that. Are you kidding me? It looks like they didn't wipe this drive. All right, well, let's start with just the properties. This is a, oh, goodness. It says 232 gigabyte, but it's probably a 250 gigabyte. There's 119 gigabytes of stuff on this drive. Fellowship documents. You mean Fellowship of the Ring type of stuff? The Nathaniel Bush House address list. There's a folder called Med School Stuff. Pretests, questions, Robin's Path. All right, these look like cross sections of brains and stuff. TV shows. Entourage, Grey's Anatomy, House, and Nip Tuck. See a theme here? Medical related theme. Movies. Well, no wonder why this drive's so full of stuff. X-Men. X-Men 2, 3, whole bunch of X-Men movies. Smoking Aces. Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Casino Royale. Blow. Austin Powers. Austin Powers 2. Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. The Da Vinci Code. Saw. Memoirs of a Geisha, The Departed, and Blood Diamond. There's a couple decent movies on here.
We're not here to solve the case of the missing scumbag. We're here to nail Costello.
Okay, all right. All right, so we're going to call this a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed this flea market finds video. And if you did, please hit the like button. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Take care.